Yeah, I think Kate and Luke were originally down to do this, but they're still traveling because of road burn. And Kate's back, but she's just super burnt out. So you've got me if that's all right. But I'm the drummer, so it might make more sense.
Oh yeah, that's totally fine. I'm glad that you were able to take the time to do this. Thank you very much.
No worries. Yeah, and apologies from the others. They extend their apologies. But yeah, I hope that's all good.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And, I actually think that's a great place to start. Like, how was this past weekend? How were the shows?
Yeah, it went really well, I think. It was our first time in the Netherlands and me personally, my first time at Roadburn. So yeah, it's just a really, really awesome festival. It was just like the most pleasant surroundings you could imagine, just really like quaint and nice, friendly people in this lovely little city and the south of the Netherlands. But then you'd go into all these like little individual venues and then the music would just be the darkest, heaviest, scariest atmospheric thing you've ever heard. So it was like a yin and yang to say the least. But yeah, it was great. The festival was good. There was like a big queue outside, even just to get in to see us. Apparently, when it had started, so we were pretty overwhelmed, really.
I'm so glad to hear that too, because I mean, it is such a legendary festival, especially for, like a kind of like you mentioned, more of the darker, scarier kind of bands do play that festival. And the fact that I mean, there's so many bands that I love that played this past weekend. And I love the fact that you were a part of that and you had a crowd that was going on for you. And it's well deserved because I mean, there's been a lot of buildup that's been going on now. And with the new album coming out on the 2nd of June, I've gotten the chance to be able to check out this album, and I really appreciate everything that's going on throughout this album. I love the creativity that's flowing throughout all of the songs, the really hard-hitting, almost terrifying lyrics that's going on throughout it, and of course that matches up with the music so perfectly. Your drumming in particular is just absolutely phenomenal, whether you're playing something very basic, whether you're doing blasts, whether you're going completely bonkers on it. It just fits so perfectly. And there's so many great things to talk about with the album.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we put a lot of time and effort into all of the little elements and making them come together best we can. But yeah, I mean, drums in particular, we spent a lot of time crafting and trying to get the best parts for the best for all the sections and make sure that we're not going over the top at times and the bits that are meant to be understated are also quite interesting. So yeah, thanks, really appreciate that. Yeah, we put a lot of time into it.
Oh, for sure. So, thinking about that as well, I mean, how is it for you knowing that the album is coming out on the 2nd of June? I mean, it's a little bit of time still, but it seems like there's a lot of great buildup. How is that for you?
Yeah, I've been enjoying the build up so far. I mean, we've had two singles come out. We dropped the like most left field thing I think we've done since we started the band with the single Blossom. It's the last track on the album. I was almost like, "You sure this isn't a little bit too much for like our first single?" But I've been proven wrong. I mean, it's got a really great reception, and I think it's picked us up some new fans who may have not heard Mirrors before, and then we dropped obviously No Temple really recently, which is a bit more of a return to our traditional sound and but also has a few more elements to it, like the electronic sections that sort of are throughout the whole song. So, I mean, it feels like it's just really exciting because those two singles, I think, on their own, you could probably unpackage them and talk quite a lot about them on their own, and just because of the different sounds and the variation between them. But yeah, the new album's going to have even more things that are different and people won't expect from us. So overall, I'm just really, really looking forward to June 2nd, just to see what people are thinking of it as a whole package, because I'm very much one of those people that like to listen to whole albums rather than uh, invest too much into singles and sort of see what the full package is, because Kate's wrote this as a concept album, so hopefully people can dig into the music and the lyrics and really enjoy it as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm very much a person who loves to be able to listen to albums from start to finish rather than just singles or just songs. I love that whole album experience. And when you are writing a concept album, I mean, obviously you want to be able to have the right lyrics to it, but you also have to have the music to match up to it to make it that great concept album. And to me, it's like the more that you listen to it, I mean, obviously there's a lot of diversity that's going on throughout this album. The two singles off the album so far have proven that, like the great diversity that goes on throughout, and there's so much more when you listen to the album in its entirety. But the more that you listen to it, the more cohesive everything starts to become, the more that you start to pay attention to the lyrics, the more you start to pay attention to everything that's going on. And it has that replay value and it has that staying power behind it as well too. I mean, the more that you listen to it, the more you get sucked into it and you really start to expand on everything that's going along with it, at least from my point of view from listening to it.
Yeah, it definitely feels to me like yeah, even though the album is quite varied, I think like Mirrors, we've tried to give it a very clear A side, B side, and but then also sort of continue all of the sounds that are sort of coming up in the first sort of half of the album into the second half. And even though I think in the last album we had like one post metal track, for example, and this one we sort of kept them elements but brought them in and given them a little bit more breathing space and put them across the album rather than just at the end, like we did last time. So yeah, it's good to hear that you found it cohesive and it sort of worked as a whole piece. I think working with our producer Lewis Johns on this one and doing it all together in the studio at the same time really helped with that because we managed to like dial in a lot of the same sounds and work collaboratively with someone who's gonna make sure that it is a complete package.
So thinking about that, like going all the way back to the beginning, like what was this the original intent with writing uh the follow-up, like or did it just like come naturally when you were coming up with new songs for the new album?
And I think it kind of came quite naturally. I think the blueprint we really had for this one was we just wanted to dial everything up from Mirrors. Um, and I think we sort of made way for, some of the elements from the earlier albums. We've incorporated more of the post metal stuff, the black gaze stuff, added a few more elements. And yeah, I think it did sort of come quite naturally because I think we're in a position where we're trying to find the sound that kind of defines Pupil Slicer as a band. And I think we're a lot closer to that this time. I mean, we've dropped a few of the maybe grindier elements from the last album, which were a lot more spread out and had to sort of make room for them by bringing in other things. But we still think that sounds in there as well. So yeah, hopefully people who were fans of the first album, for certain reasons, there'll be stuff in there for them as well. But then also people who liked some of the elements that weren't so in the forefront of the first album will be pleased as well.
So also thinking about that as well too. I mean, of course, with being able to evolve the sound, having more diversity throughout the album, how is that for you when you're behind the kits? I mean, do you enjoy being able to have all these different colors in the palette for the band?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was born on the internet pretty much, so there's no strict genre rules for me. Like I don't listen to a single type of music that was, I guess, more of a thing back in the day, and I certainly don't like playing one type of music either. So, um, me and Kate have a lot of bands that we both really like. It ranges from like Death Heaven to Code Orange and another UK band Loathe, and then stuff even further back. But yeah, it's yeah. To sum it up, really, yeah, it's just nice to have a bit of variety, especially in the internet age where you can just listen to anything you want and get into any genre you want. We like to mix things up and make the music a bit more interesting. And I love bands that stick to like one sound and are just really good at it. And, I listen to a lot of bands who are like that, but I think for us it's always been about surprising people and showing there's a few more feathers to our bow.
And I'm glad you brought that up too. And I gotta imagine that you also surprised yourself as a band, as a collective, when you were kind of coming up with these ideas, because when you were introducing these new ideas and it started coming out naturally like this, and just hearing all the different elements that weren't included in the band before, but now make a stronger presence, I imagine you got to be feeling great about that, just like knowing that the band's continuing to evolve. And I imagine the next time that you get into writing sessions that it's going to evolve even further.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think when we finished Mirrors, we'd sat on it for quite a while before we released it, so I had a lot of time to think about what we were going to do next. And the plan was always before a note was always written that we were just going to like up all of the elements that we really liked from the first album. But I mean, for the third album, I'm not really sure we've even thought about where we're going to go with that one next. But I'm sure it won't be Blossom 3 or no Mirrors 3 or Blossom 2. It's going to be it's probably going to be something new, I imagine. And we've got a tour next month starting, and then lots of other gigs booked up for later this year, so we're going to see how the tracks go down as well, because it's always good to see some of the songs from Mirrors, for example. We were like, we thought they'd be really cool live, but then there were certain songs where we thought weren't great live songs, worked better and got more response. So I guess that'll be a bit of an element in it as well, and also seeing people's reaction online.
Oh yeah, and I can imagine once the album comes out and you start to hear that fan reception and you're able to play more songs off of the album as well too, like not trying to spoil everything off the album. And it's like I'm not sure what the set list was this past weekend, but I imagine like you threw in at least the singles off the new album to be able to throw that into there. But that's going to be cool to be able to incorporate more of the new material in there and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we got electronic stuff sprinkled through the album, and we've like incorporated that for the first time into our set by just having even playing to like click and having like the full production and all the layers behind our sound for the new singles. And although it's challenging, I think it will be worth it as well to have like it sounding as close to the album as possible. But then it's not a constant thing that's running through the songs. It's only for the actual extra bits, like the synths and the little extra percussive anvil sounds, our sort of 9 Inch Nail moments, getting them sort of into the set. So yeah, we played two songs, the two singles, and we also played the third single from the album at Roadburn as well. So which is coming out later this month, later next month rather. So hoping people dig that as well.
So thinking about that as well too, I mean, obviously with incorporating new elements in the live sets and being able to have more electronics on stage, has your setup changed at all since the previous album? Have you rearranged anything at all?
From a drum perspective, no. I mean, getting used to playing to like a click track to get these extra production things going is something we've wanted to do for quite a while, but it's just when you've got 20 minutes to set up on stage and you've got to drag a load of cymbal stands on and all these other things, and you're not used to playing in front of big audiences, it's a tricky extra thing to think about on top of all of that. But we've just I think we've taken quite a good approach to it, where we've just been sort of very gently easing our way into it. So we're going to be using it on a lot of the shows on the Boris tour. From a drum perspective, not much has really changed from just the drums on its own. But I think that element will really make the show a lot more interesting. And we've got a second guitarist now as well since we've started this cycle. So yeah, it'd be cool to see how it all sounds.
Yeah, and I gotta imagine like I'm glad you brought that up about now incorporating a second guitarist into the band. I imagine like the sound, especially live, it's just got to be having that rich, fuller sound behind it. I mean, I'm not sure what you have in the mix when you're playing live, but I imagine for the from the audience perspective, being able to hear like two full guitars going on, it just makes the sound so much stronger.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a guitarist for a little while, a second guitarist for some of the shows last year, and yeah, we're going to continue that, even though we're, traditionally known as a three piece when we started. But yeah, I think it does make a big difference, and it also, Kate doing the vocals and the guitars on her own, it makes things a lot easier for Kate, um, as well, not having to worry about hitting every single guitar note when you're having to like do this crazy screaming at the same time. But yeah, sound wise, we've got some really good feedback from people. And yeah, I think it's an improvement more than anything. So yeah, hopefully people enjoy it on the new tour.
Oh, for sure. And, just hearing you talk about it and just like hearing all of these experiences that you're having, going from more local shows, very smaller shows to being able to play Roadburn, now being able to be a part of these grander tours that are coming up, being able to help promote the album and whatever happens further. I mean, how is that for you? Like being able to go from the smaller venues to like festivals to full on touring. What is that like for you?
Yeah, it's just really cool. Like it's one of them things you really dream about when you're younger and when you start bands. And I mean, just going to Roadburn, over the weekend and experiencing it as, a festival goer and experiencing the festival and then actually being able to play it was a real, we've got to stop, when you're really tired from travel and you're doing practices every weekend and, sacrificing a lot of your, personal life. Because I work full time on top of the band stuff. So it's, you spend quite a lot of time getting ready for things and, sacrifice a lot to it, but it's just so worth it to, be able to do that and, go out on tour and visit countries you've never been to before and meet fans from around the world. So yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah, and especially considering the fact of like the state of the world over the last few years and not even being able to play shows to now coming out the other side and being able to play even bigger shows, getting on bigger tours, being able to do festival appearances. I can imagine just from that standpoint of like not knowing what the future is going to be to seeing it come out even stronger. I imagine that's got to be a great feeling as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't that long ago all this was happening, but it feels like ages ago just because, life's just moved so far since then. Um, and yeah, I mean, we were disappointed because our first show out of the pandemic was meant to be that a European tour with Rolo Tomasi, but because of restrictions, we had to make that just a UK tour in the end. And then we've played Europe a few times for festivals, but then we've got that experience with Boris coming up. Well, we start next week the tour, so that's going to be starting in Germany, France, and then across to Ireland, into the UK, and then back to mainland Europe again. So yeah, it's really cool to be experiencing that for the first time.
And I'm so glad that you get to go on tour with a band like that, a band that I love and respect so much, and seeing that you're going to be opening for them. I mean, that's just going to be a killer package. And I imagine hopefully every night of the show is just going to be incredible.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I saw Boris live for the first time like 6 or 7 years ago, and if you told me I'd be going on tour with them in 5 years, 5 6 years, I wouldn't have believed you. So to be part of that package is awesome. I think anyone who's into any kind of you know uh sort of experimental metal should know about Boris, and they're legends in the scene. They're kind of a band that we really like. I mean, I'm not sure we're going to jump to like doing completely different genre albums, but we've always respected how they're a band that aren't afraid to do something completely different and change their sound. And I think the fact that they've produced so many like albums you'd consider classics within these genres they've explored shows that, you know, bands can do that kind of thing and make it work.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, there's a lot of crossover between both of you as well. I mean, obviously not completely everything, at least so far, but there's enough there to make it a diverse and varied show every night as well. And that's also a great thing about what the band is great at for what you do is like you could jump on all these different tours and festival appearances, whether they focus on one style of music or they focus on a lot of different styles of music, because you have a little bit of something for everyone in different styles. I mean, obviously there's a lot of extreme stuff, but there's more electronic stuff that's going to be coming out now. There's a little more like you mentioned, black gaze as well. That's throughout the new album. More straightforward stuff that's going on as well too. I mean, it's a little bit of everything that someone can appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, that's why we get so lucky in some respects to play a lot of different festivals and shows to different people. Is, you know, we played Bloodstock last year, which is quite a traditional, you know, metal festival. But then, you know, we played Roadburn, which is, um, I mean, I've attended Roadburn now, and I don't think I could put a pin on what a Roadburn band is, but I kind of get it a little bit more now. And you know, I think we fit that festival quite well. You know, we're playing Download. We're playing like a few other things. I almost said one that wasn't announced then, but I stopped myself. But you know, there's a few. It's cool to be in a band that, you know, can get respected across, you know, lots of different genres and and, you know, promoters, you know, kindly letting us, you know, play their festivals to audiences that you know, might be a little bit challenged, but, you know, it's quite good in some ways that we have so many different songs, because we can always, you know, cater the set lists to what we think, you know, the core audience of the festival might enjoy.
Oh, for sure. And uh, you kind of took the closer for what I was going to ask. I mean, I'm glad to see that there's things in the works that will be announced eventually, but I'm glad to see that there is coming up for what I imagine like the rest of the year, possibly into next year as well too. I'm glad to see those things coming up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we've announced quite a lot of stuff, but then yeah, we've got a few more things in the pipeline for later this year. I don't think we've got anything planned for next year yet, but, you know, we're hoping maybe we could finally get over to the US. Maybe would be a dream, but yeah, we'll see how the album does first. But hopefully that's something we can do soon too.
Yeah, I hope so as well. Of course, being over here in the States, I think the band would do so very well over here, especially with the variety of tours that happen here and so many different areas of the country over here love different styles of music. And I just imagine like every place that you'd play over here, you'd be able to uh, garner a bigger fan base. And I imagine with the trajectory of what's been going on, I mean, like everything that I've been seeing online, the reception to the new singles, and I imagine the next single when that comes out next month as well. Like just seeing the rise in popularity of the band, it's so cool to see that happening for all of you, and it's got me excited for when people hear the full album, and obviously with the set list and the touring and everything else that comes with it. It just seems like everything's going up and up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to see, you know, where this album takes us next. You know, it's something we've been working on for quite a while, but it's sometimes you do quite easily forget that it's not even really out yet. So I'll be really interested to see, you know, what people think of it, and, you know, where it would take us next, because, you know, I'm quite content on what we've been doing so far. Like, I played with one of my favorite bands, playing some festivals I absolutely love, and getting to attend them as well. And yeah, I mean, it's hard. I might have to set some new goals soon, because it's just been such a great couple of years.
And I think with that, I think that's a fantastic note to end on. I mean, just hearing, just the pride that's going on throughout the band, and I imagine in your own playing as well, just continuing to get stronger and stronger, and the whole band as a collective getting stronger and stronger, and the rise and popularity of the band. And there's so many great things to look forward to, and of course, Blossom coming out the 2nd of June, which again, I've gotten the chance to be able to listen to this, and I really appreciate all the creativity and influences and the experimentation and just being yourselves throughout the album, whether it's on a very personal level when it comes to the lyrics or of course musically as well too, being able to show so much variation throughout the music. And it's just been awesome to be able to talk to you about all of it.
Oh, thanks. It's always, we really, really appreciate anyone who wants to, talk to us about our music, and, especially if you've been digging the album and, appreciate, what we've been doing and can tell that we've been true to, who we want to be as a band. I'm glad that comes through. So yeah, I really appreciate your time, Josh.
Oh, absolutely. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to bring up that I hadn't brought up yet?
No, I think that's everything really. I mean, we spoke a bit about the tour, so hopefully see some people out on that who listen to this, and yeah, see what the year brings ahead. And yeah, thanks for listening.